Hey, welcome back to the Let's Talk podcast. We've got Brad Perry. He is the senior minister and has served in a couple different roles here at Poplar Ridge over the last few years,
Pretty
right?
much every role.
Pretty much every role. And so excited to have Brad on. We've talked with John and Elijah interviewed me last month, but getting to talk to Brad, who's been here the longest out of any staff members.
Yes.
So take us back to the beginning. I know a lot of people here, know a little bit of your story, but we got a lot of newer people. What was life like growing up? What kind of kid were you?
I grew up here in East Tennessee, over in the community Bunker Hill. Went to church there. My dad was an elder there, director of Sunday school, and really, uh, probably the driving force in ministry was my dad, and watching him volunteer elders meetings around our kitchen table growing up, that kind of thing. So just a simple country boy, nothing fancy. Dad worked over in the plants in Elizabeth and was a Pepsi guy, was milkman, just from job to job. But went to Sullivan East High School, um, graduated in 1987, and out of high school joined the Marine Corps. Uh, just an average kid doing the average thing in East Tennessee, nothing special.
Right, right. So, you grew up in this area. You grew up around ministry, but you weren't planning to originally go into ministry. And so before ministry, what did you think you were going to do with your life?
Um, I would say ministry wise, I ran from that. I remember when I was growing up as a kid, at my home church, everybody would meet together in the sanctuary. Somebody would read scripture, they'd sing a song, and then we'd split up and go to Sunday school. Um, and every Sunday school class rotated on who was reading that scripture. And I was probably 8 or 9 years old. Our Sunday school teacher, her name was Verna Riffey. Um, she got me up on the stage, a little stool behind the pulpit, and I read. I might have been 8, not maybe 7 or 8. Something. I was just barely reading.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking I could do this. This is pretty cool. But then, at 15, 16, 17, I didn't want to have anything to do with church. So I ran from that and joined the Marine Corps right out of high school.
Right.
So I had no plans, and I really liked the Marine Corps. I was pretty good at it. So I thought, maybe I'll just stay in there. But the Marine Corps is not a place to be married. I got
Right.
married while I was in, and I had to make a choice. Do you want to stay married or stay a Marine? And I decided to get out. And really, that's where ministry started, is me and Shauna started volunteering as youth workers,
Yeah.
at my home church.
Yeah. Cool. And so, how did you come to know Jesus? I mean, I know you grew up around it, but I know there was a moment, just because I've heard you talk about it. Um, how did you come to know him personally? And when was that first call? I think you just mentioned that a little bit to go into ministry.
I Personal relationship. I grew up in church, but 15, 16 really just and it wasn't I'm just doing a bad. It was an intentional. I'm not doing this.
Right.
Um, I was in the Marine Corps. I think I was on my first Mediterranean float during the first Gulf War. Um, and went up on one of they call catwalks on the outside walkways, and just overwhelming feeling of like you're not who you're supposed to be.
Mm.
You're missing something. Um, and really just started diving into that. I wrote my dad a letter, apologizing for being a butt crack as a teenager. I went and saw, we didn't have preachers, we had chaplains, and the chaplain with my unit was a Catholic priest.
Wow.
Father Rochford was his name. I went and saw him. He gave me a camouflaged New Testament Bible. It's still on my desk today. And I just started really digging into that. And I'm not a reader, so I started with the smallest chapters, smallest book. So it was Jude. I think after Jude, it was first or second John. And then I started working. Before I got home off of that float, I'd read the entire New Testament.
Mm.
So for me, it wasn't a church experience. It was really a personal, and that's one of the reasons why ministry is formed the way it has, is because I always like you got to take personal responsibility for your own spiritual growth
Yeah.
because that's kind of where I came from.
Right.
We didn't have a church
Yeah.
initially. It was like at night out on a catwalk by yourself. There was, I think, five of us met in an anchor hold for a Bible study once a week. And I didn't know, I knew the Bible, but I didn't know the spiritual relationship side of Christianity.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So you mentioned a bit ago you couldn't really be married that well in the Marine Corps. Like you could, but just not, maybe not the way you're supposed to be, at least for some. And so, obviously you were with Shauna. Like, tell us about how did you meet Shauna? What was life like before you came here? Um, what experiences like that shaped you? So how'd you meet? All that stuff.
all right. So Shauna was a sixth grader at Bluff City Middle School. I was in the seventh grade, and her locker mate was really pretty. So I was trying to get her to be my girl, and went down to try to see her, and there was Shauna, and I'm like, okay. Um, we grew up like, basically in that she was one of my best friends in high school. We didn't date when I was in high school. She was the girl I would go to when I had girl problems.
Gotcha.
And I had all of those because I wasn't a ladies' man. But after high school, we worked together at a restaurant, Bears Barbecue, and I begged her to go out with me, and she always said no. Um, I finally blackmailed or bribed her. I'm not really sure how that worked. We started dating. I joined the Marine Corps, um, and we broke up for a time frame because of my own stupidity, uh, and got back together really over the phone when I was stationed in AIC, Alaska. Got married while I was in, and when I say, Marine Corps or marriage for a lot of people, those two can go together.
Right.
But um, I'm kind of an all in kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's either everything or nothing. So the lifestyle and the person I needed to be with the unit I was in wasn't a kind, gentle hearted kind of dude.
Right.
So, and it made it really hard for me to come home and be a good husband and then go away and be the
Yeah.
guy that's got to go clear a room with terrorists in it.
Right.
Um, so I couldn't juggle the two. We were gone so much she didn't come with me. She stayed home. Um, our first 2 years of marriage, I was overseas for 14 months of
Mm.
it, and in the field Monday through Thursday when we weren't overseas.
Yeah.
I would drive home. I'd sneak home on weekends when I could. So that made it difficult. When I got out, there was a transition period that was hard.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things we did immediately is we built some good relationships um, at my home church where was attending while I was gone, and part of that was youth workers.
Yeah.
We'd go on vacation together. We'd stay up all night and play cards together. We'd go to ball games with the kids in our youth group together. Um, we raised our kids until we came to Poplar Ridge.
Yeah.
Raised our
Right.
kids together. So that journey really was serving in youth ministry. And the youth minister that recruited me and Shauna is actually uh, attends church here at Poplar Ridge now,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah. All right. So you were at Bunker Hill, but then Poplar Ridge job opened. And so tell me a little bit about that on how you got here.
So a lot of it was me running from ministry and needing a job, not the way that you typically, you feel called. Uh, I felt some of that, but it was more from a volunteer. But when I had quit a job that paid really well, took a job coaching wrestling that was basically a minimum wage job. Me and Sean were really struggling
Yeah.
financially. I'd gone back to school basically so I could get my GI Bill money. That was paying my bills, not to get an education. Um, and I needed a job. My brother, we met for Sunday lunch every Sunday, and my brother was already in ministry. Somebody had told him that Papa Ridge was hiring. Um, uh, Monday, I turned in a resume. I'm like, there's a job.
Yeah.
I love youth ministry. I really felt like I could do it, but it wasn't, just a calling as much as we needed finance. And I think that was God's way of directing me. You need to do this. I've wired you to do
Right.
this, and me running from it, and His way of pushing me into that compelling call.
Right.
They didn't have any reason to hire me. I had no Bible college, no experience on staff. Um, they had a guy that they were already planning to hire.
Mm.
They interviewed the two of us, and we had a lady in the church that told me and Shauna that it was like the Lord shut His mouth,
Mm.
and he didn't. They had interviewed him before, and he did great, but that night he just didn't interview
Mm.
well. So they, not a unanimous decision, split decision, offered me a position, and we came in '98.
Okay. So 1998. So it's almost been, what is that, 30 years?
I'll be, yeah, 30 years. Well, August 1st officially of 2028 will be 30 years.
Hmm. Well,
Yeah.
church changes
Oh
over
yeah.
time. And so what was Poplar Ridge like when you arrived? You walked in 1998, and if somebody was to walk in back then, what would they experience?
Um, a lot more formal in attire.
Yep.
Pretty much you can wear, come as you are at Poplar Ridge, but then most everybody wore, you know, suit, tie. Not everybody, but most everybody. More traditional piano, organ,
Yeah.
um, and if that's your thing, that's okay. Um, One building, we didn't have a youth room. The youth room ended up being the basement of our house, the church parsonage.
Yep.
Um, the church had a lot of music history,
Mm.
big productions. Um, they loved the community, but it was just getting into that growth pattern, bouncing around 200, 225.
Right.
Was still a very good church, though. Very good church.
Yeah.
Senior minister at the time, I always say he was probably the best pastor
Yeah.
that I've ever experienced. He just loved. He would take me some Tuesday, but we would just go fix breakfast for people.
Yeah.
Like every Thanksgiving, him and his wife would make pumpkin pies and deliver them to the elderly people. Hospital. He was a great pastor, um, and I think that was the DNA of the church at that time.
Right.
Um, they loved each other, um, and they did a lot. Um, I think we moved more toward just community outreach
Yeah.
when I came on board because that was my background.
Right. So in the last 28 years, you've seen a lot of change here. You've seen a lot of different seasons at Poplar Ridge. Um, what's one season or moment you'll never forget?
We hired a gentleman from California because the elders wanted to be more contemporary, and we hired this phenomenal musician, worship leader, and the elders said we want you to provide a contemporary worship service,
Yep.
and they didn't really know what they were asking for, and he did exactly what they were asking for, and it
Right.
was, I think, a transformational year. Very rocky, very.
Yeah.
Um, he did a phenomenal. I tell people, if I went and planted a church somewhere, I would probably call him
Yeah.
because he led us through some very rocky roads and a hard transition. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's crazy.
it splits churches, and
Yep.
so I think that's probably one of the most memorable because it changed. It really changed who we were.
Yep.
There's been a lot of little ones. We got After Prom, and that was transformational. It'd been at Avoca Christian Church for a few years, and that opened up a whole group of people with creative ideas and building sets. The first oil change ministry we did for single moms and widows was introduced by Daniel Jesse,
Yeah.
and that was a huge. Never forget. the conversations that happened. The first Freedom Fest
Yeah.
was really cool. And when we come up with that idea, it was like, oh, you can't do that. Um, it's kind of like just what's this?
Yeah.
Uh, so that was I'll never forget that. We had an elder, Tony Stout, who tried to count the people as they were coming in and on campus, and he had these little click. They're still in the drawer in the
Yep.
office.
Yep.
These little clickers, and there's been a lot of those little transformational moments.
Right. That's cool. And so, a lot of things to remember, a lot of difficult seasons in ministry. When you've been in ministry longer than, I don't know, 3 years, you said,
Yeah.
or less, you kind of realize that. What's been the hardest season you've walked through? And, how did God meet you there?
The our staff has a tradition of longevity.
Yeah.
Not just me. Um, Roland had been here for almost 20 years. I think
Right.
him leaving was probably one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Um, we lost a couple very impactful elders unexpectedly. Um, the passing of Donnie Carter was extremely difficult, just to mention one. But um, we had a young man in our youth group that was just a one of a kind kid that had cystic fibrosis, and his passing was very, very difficult. So any of those
Right.
unexpected or even expected, because that's one of those things that there's no way to prepare for. Um, that was hard. Probably personally, from a ministry standpoint, when we made the decision to redecorate the worship center and take out the church pews and go to chairs.
Yeah.
Um, that was probably the kicking of the hornet's nest for me. Um, and like, because there were people that I loved, and I know they loved me, but they didn't love that. And
Right.
that was really harder than people know.
Yeah.
Because it was, a lot of people took it personal, and it wasn't personal.
Right.
Which it sounds really silly coming out, but that was also very difficult.
What's crazy about that is that was only what, like 10 years
Yeah, it
ago.
wasn't that long ago.
I've been here for 6, and it just feel like there's been a lot of change since then, and things have gone
Yes.
well there. But
Well, I think once you get the change ball rolling, it rolls easier.
right.
Our I think our people weren't used to changing.
Yep.
Make decisions. Is your organization, church, or whatever it is, going to be, uh, a huge ship, or is it going to be a speedboat?
Yeah.
And Poplar Ridge has always been that ship that it took a long time to get change going. I
Right.
mean, I remember the board meeting where we decided we were going to use a screen, and it was probably a 2.5, 3 hour board meeting. And
Wow.
yeah, so yeah, those transitions are difficult.
Yeah. So what's something people don't really realize about ministry when you've been in it for this long? Like you've experienced things. Like what are some things that people don't even realize happen when you've been around for a long
I think for Sunday's easy is probably the most
time?
obvious.
Right.
Sunday is the easiest, especially where we're at and where a lot of churches in America, that mid-size church where you're growing, but you're not grown enough to do everything. You got to do a lot during the week.
Right.
Um, that mega churches and smaller churches may not have to,
Right.
because there's an expectation after you get over 200,
Yep.
but you don't have the resources of the church that's over 700.
Right.
So I think that's like people ask all the time, what do you do during the week? Like, what do we not do during
Yeah.
the week?
Yep.
I mean, we've cleaned carpets, we've unclogged toilets,
Yep.
we've met with contractors, plus, teaching 5, 6 times a week,
Yep.
in the community and here at church.
Yep.
I think that's a big misconception about ministry. And I would say for people who do it, of just make sure you're called to do it.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, if you're doing this for a career, it's not a bad career.
Right.
Um, but you're not going to find the joy in it,
Yeah.
and you're going to create chaos in the church where you're serving.
Yep.
Whereas if you're doing this because it's who you are and you're called to do it, um, it's rare that I work.
Yeah.
I you know, there's days I'm working 14 to 16
Right.
hours. Uh, Wednesdays for me are crazy.
Yeah.
Between FCA and Poplar Ridge, um, but I'm called to do it, so it's not. I mean, it's like most of what I do for free.
Right.
I think that's the thing. If you're called into this and God's wired you to it, it's a whole lot easier because it's who you are. It's
Yeah.
not what you do.
Right.
Most people think it's just another job.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. People do still have that misconception of, well, you just do Sundays, right? And when you're talking about it, I remembered a story. I think it was 2 years ago in the summer. I think VBS prep was happening, which I don't help out a lot with that because I'm not handy like that, but I'll do whatever I need to do to help. But I remember there was a lady that was coming to the church and she wanted to come meet with somebody that day. And we ended up baptizing her just in the middle of the week. And then Elijah and I were like we had to go pick up a ping pong table that day in Kingsport, and it's like, what in the world? Like, just you get this super big high of like a baptism, and then it's
Yeah,
like, oh, now we got to go pick up a ping pong table
yeah,
with the trailer. It's just like the weirdest things. It's
yeah.
like the highs and the like the I don't know.
I mean, if you
Uh,
have ADD, it's great because you
right,
never know from day to day what you might be doing.
right,
Um, so yeah, if
yeah,
you're wired that way,
just funny. You never know what you're gonna get into during the week either. So okay, so looking at Poplar Ridge today, what excites you most about leading the church right now?
we're in a place. We've seen tremendous growth over the last couple of years, um, and I think it's because our people are excited. We've not done a growth campaign.
Right.
Um, there's not been a big push to, hey, go out and block party your neighborhood. We've done those things in the
Yeah.
past, but we've really not done one. But we've seen the largest growth rate in our history because our people are getting excited about their personal relationship with Jesus and the community that they found at Poplar Ridge, and they're going out and sharing that in the
Yeah.
community. And that is an awesome place to be because in 30 years of ministry, I don't know that I've ever experienced that like this.
Right.
I saw it in a youth group years ago, um, but not in a church setting
Right.
overall. That really excites me, and it's really scary because
Yeah.
I don't know what's around. I'm not a control freak, but I'm a knowledge freak. I want to know.
Right.
I don't like not being in the know, and I don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. I don't know, what's our next step, and everybody's like, "What are we going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know.
Right. Right.
We're going to do something."
Yeah. Well, that's what we talk about a lot. Nobody on our staff has really led at this size.
No.
Or maybe I guess Mike's maybe been a part of something big with
Yes.
college ministry and all that stuff in Johnson City, but none of us have really been at 500 or
No.
above for a long
And I
time.
really
So
think it's just getting started.
yeah.
Because number one, I don't think it's because of us.
Right.
I mean, I think our staff is great. My personal opinion, um, this is the best staff around.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't think it's because of our staff. I think it's a movement of God's Holy Spirit within
Right.
His people here at Poplar Ridge, and and that doesn't mean we're without problems.
Right.
If you come visit next Sunday, we hope somebody's going to say hi and they're going to be friendly.
Right.
Um, but it doesn't. We don't have a plan
Right.
that really in place to
Yeah.
cover every base. uh, I think the unique thing and the one thing that really excites me right now, is the freedom to be authentic.
Yep.
Like, let's just be us.
Yeah.
Whether it's me on the stage or you, or John or whoever.
Yep.
It's like that's if you come see us on Wednesday, it's probably going to be the same person. There's not
Yes.
a
Yeah.
we're not putting on a uniform
Yep.
or playing a part. We're very authentic. This
Yeah.
is who we are,
Yeah.
uh, which is really refreshing.
Right. So I know you're always trying to pour into the next generation. We need next generation leaders. We talk about that a lot. Who's the person that you're helping mentor and grow. We talk about that a lot with our church. What would be a piece of wisdom or advice you would give to the next generation of leaders at Poplar Ridge? And that doesn't even have that's not just staff. It's just the younger generation in general. What would that be?
Physical, spiritual.
Whatever.
Probably the one that surprised me and took me the longest to learn was take care of yourself,
Yeah.
mentally, physically, spiritually. Because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody else will.
Right.
And if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else.
Yeah.
So I think that's for me was a big piece because I always go. Like, and there's got to be moments where I got to find solitude, where I need Sabbath, where my wife always forced me to go on a vacation,
Right.
and I would go kicking and screaming. And now I'm like, yeah, I really needed that.
Yeah.
I'm giving her a hug and saying thank you for making me do that. Um, I think that would be a big one. Um, I would the other piece of advice. I think it's really easy in ministry to get caught up um, in church and in ministry and forget Jesus.
Yeah.
Um, and I think we can chase after ministry success to the point that we run away from Jesus.
Yep.
Um, so for me, I think next generational is like we want you to serve in the church, but we want you to love Jesus.
Right.
More than serving the church. So focus on Him, and He'll lead you in the right place to serve. Um, and then I think third, from a leadership standpoint, of uh, remember that we are covered, empowered, and loved by the God that has done crazy things
Yeah.
throughout history. I am a creation of the Creator,
Yeah.
and I am created in His image. It is a sin to do ministry in a boring way.
Yep.
And it is a sin to do things. I probably shouldn't say that. I'd be taking it a little too far. Um, we should not do things because we've always done them. I love the idea of if we could do anything, what would we do? Now let's go do it.
Right.
Um, and I think all of those ideas have shelf lives. Um, they have seasons. Some of our best ministries, we don't do an oil change ministry anymore because it had its season and it run its course.
Yeah.
Um, but there's still some. This will be I can't remember 10th, 11th, 12th year of Freedom
Right.
Fest.
Right.
And it's growing still.
Yeah.
I think just being different. Craig Rochelle says to reach people nobody else is reaching, you got to do things that nobody else is doing. And sometimes we can just do it for the sake of doing it, but I think doing it because our community needs it
Yeah.
is where you find success. So I would look at where you are, be where your feet at, and love the people in front of you.
Yep.
I think I could talk about ministry for another hour. So because I love my community, I love what I do, and I think there's such a shortage of young ministers who are just like, oh, I got to do this or die.
Right.
In Acts, I think it's Peter John says we can't help but speak of Jesus. I mean, that's what we want in ministry. That's what
Right.
we want in leaders.
Right.
Like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. Love that. Okay. Final question. If there's one thing you could say to our church right now, what would it be?
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me be a part of it.
Yeah.
So now this wasn't supposed to happen. One just to the church in general. Yeah, thank you. I love you. We raised our kids here. it's home for us now. Um, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And let's go.
Yeah.
Um, whether I'm on staff or not, um, really doesn't change the idea because this is our church. We're going to attend here unless whoever would have replaced me runs me off. Um, and we probably sneak in anyway.
Yeah.
Um, I think God's going to do even more remarkable things.
Yeah.
So, you know, let's go.
Yeah. I love it. Well, appreciate your time. Appreciate your ministry here at Poplar Ridge. And I guess that's it. I guess we'll just stop and be
That's it.
done. But that's it.
All right.
But hey, thanks for listening to the Let's Talk podcast. This one's with Brad. We'll see you next month in the next one.
Thank you.